Ms. McCarthy, I want to ask a couple of questions of you. So one of the objectives today is identify greenhouse gas regulations that already existed and those in the future and how they actually impact the climate change, right? So you'd agree that we want to make sure we have a successful climate policy as a result of those sets of rules and regulations that you promulgate. Fair baseline statement?
In the context of a larger international effort, yes.
You bet. And on your website, you have 26 indicators used for tracking climate change. They identify various impacts of climate change. And so you would believe that the purpose of these rules is to impact those 26 indicators, right? So you put a good greenhouse gas rule in place, you'll get a good outcome on at least some or all of those 26 indicators.
I think that the better way to think about it, if I might, is that it is part of an overall strategy that is positioning the U.S. for leadership in an international discussion, because climate change requires a global effort. So this is one piece and it's one step, but I think it's a significant one to show the commitment of the United States.
Makes perfect sense. But you think it'd be reasonable to take the regulations you promulgate and link them to those 26 indicators that you have on your website? And
No,
say this is how they impacted it.
It's unlikely that any specific one step is going to be seen as having a visible impact on any of those impacts, a visible change in any of those impacts. What I'm suggesting is that climate change has to be a broad array of actions that the U.S. and other folks in the international community take that make a significant effort towards reducing greenhouse gases and mitigating the impacts of climate.
But these are your indicators, Ms. McCarthy. So these are the
They're
things
indicators of climate change. They are not directly applicable to performance impacts of any one action.
How about the cumulative impact of your actions? Certainly, you're acting in a way, you say these are the indicators of climate change. Certainly it can't be the case that your testimony today is that your cumulative impact of your current set of regulations and those you're proposing isn't going to have any impact at all on any of those indicators?
I think that the President was very clear. What we're attempting to do is put together a comprehensive climate plan across the administration that has that positions the U.S. for leadership on this issue and that will prompt and leverage international discussions and actions.
So you're putting regulations in place for the purpose of leadership, but not to impact the indicators that you, the EPA, says are the indicators of climate change? I'm
Congressman, we're working within the authority that Congress gave us to do what we can, but all I'm pointing out is that much more needs to be done and it needs to be looked at in that larger context.
So 2010 NHTSA, in your opening statement, you said we've gotten rid of a whole bunch of greenhouse gas, about 6 billion metric tons. How many, for example, one of your indicators is heat-related deaths. How many heat-related deaths have been eliminated as a result of the 2010 NHTSA rules?
You can't make those direct connections, Congressman. Neither can I.
Right. So there's literally no connection to the activities you're undertaking and to the.
I did not.
Well, you said you couldn't make the connection. So tell me what I'm misunderstanding. Can you draw a connection between the rules you're providing, the regulations you're promulgating, and your indicators, or can you? Is it just on there?
I think what you're asking is, can EPA, in and of itself, solve the problems of climate change? No, we cannot. But the authority you gave us was to use the Clean Air Act to regulate pollution. Carbon pollution is one of those regulated pollutants. And we're going to move forward with what we can do that's reasonable and appropriate.
I'm actually not asking that question that you suppose that I'm asking.
Okay,
I didn't ask if you had the capacity to solve greenhouse gas issues. What I asked was, is anything you're doing any good as measured by the indicators that you've provided for green? So is your testimony today that you just have no capacity to identify whether the actions EPA has undertaken has any impact on those indicators? There's literally, this is about science, cause and effect. Is there any causal relationship between the regulations you promulgated and the 26 indicators of climate change that you have on your website?
The indicators on the website are broad global indicators.
They're not broad, they're very specific.
Of impacts associated with climate change. They are not performance requirements or impacts related to any particular act.
I actually like the indicators. They're quantifiable.
They're great.
Right? Heat-related deaths, change in ocean heat, sea level rises, snow cover. Those are great quantifiable things. But now what you're telling me is...
They indicate the public health impacts associated with climate change.
Exactly. But what you're telling me is you can't link up your actions at EPA to any benefits associated with those quantifiable indicators that the EPA itself has proposed as indicative of climate change?
I think what we're able to do is to show, I hope we will show this in the package that we put out for comment, is what kind of reductions are going to be associated with our rules, what we believe they will have in terms of an economic and a public health benefit. But it, again, is a part of a very large strategy.
Awesome. My time is up.